What's going on? Today I'm going to demonstrate and explain how to apply edge banding to your projects. I'm going to go over the tools required and take you through getting a piece done, just to show you step by step how easy it is. First, let's talk about what edge banding is. It's a material that you apply to the edge of a plywood to cover it up. So I'm making some cabinets right now, and I've got an unfinished side and a finished side, so this will be on the inside of the cabinet, but I've got this edge banding right here. So generally plywood, you can see all the individual plies, and that's not something that you want in your finished project. So you can apply edge banding, which is a thin strip with an adhesive on the back that you can iron on. They generally come in rolls like this. When selecting your edge banding, so this is white melamine, you can get it in pretty much any species and or color that you need. The one thing to keep in mind is that you always want to buy it larger than the actual dimensions of your material. So this is 3/4 inch plywood. The melamine edge banding is 7/8 inch wide. So you have to give yourself room to trim it flush with the material. Now, some of the tools that you're going to need, there's a few that you have to have and a few that you would be better off using. They're just really handy. So first off, got to have an iron. Depending on the material you're using, wax paper can be a good idea. I found that this being white melamine, that the iron was leaving marks on it. It'll probably wash off with a little effort, but I decided to start using some wax paper as a buffer between the two so that I wasn't marring the surface. You're gonna need a file and a metallic brush of some sort. I like using a brass brush, but they have other ones that are steel that have harder bristles. When you're filing, it's a step that you have to do afterwards, putting it on. You're gonna have to clean your file on a regular basis. A chisel or a razor blade, those are kind of the must-haves. Some really nice tools. This is an edge banding trimmer and a J roller. So I'll explain all of that in a moment. Now, it's kind of hard to have, when you're working by yourself, you only have one set of hands. And to do edge banding, you kind of need more than that. So I use this fence that I have for my table saw. It just allows me to cut larger pieces vertically. But when I get set up, I can use a clamp and get my piece clamped to it so it's standing up on edge, which will allow me to start working on it. So I have my piece. All right, got my edge banding. And I'm just going to roughly let it hang over the edge and break it off. They all break pretty easily. So now when you are gluing this on, you're going to start at one end, and you want to feel with your fingers as you're gripping it that you have an overhang on both sides all the way down. You don't ever want to try and glue it directly on the edge. You'll never get it to line up just right or have a clean edge. And even with the wax paper here, it doesn't interfere with me being able to feel where the edge is. So now I have my hot iron. I'm going to start at one end, and I'm just going to very slowly applying downward pressure, making sure that I'm always feeling an edge on both sides. Iron across, letting that glue melt. And I like to just a little, not a lot, roll down over each edge, just a little, because what I'm trying to do is get that glue that's melting to squeeze out and for it to really hug on my piece. So now the J roller, this thing, it does two things. It applies downward pressure, thus helping the glue get better contact with the piece of wood, but it also helps cool the edge banding, which is an important step as well. This just gives you some good leverage. Generally, when you're using something like this, you're not working this high up. It just happens to be how I'm working. And you can do this with a block of wood. I mean, you just have to run a block of wood across it. The point is just to apply good downward pressure to allow it to cool. And then I like to trim the edges before trimming the sides here. And I prefer using a chisel and cutting in a paring motion. So I'm going to always cut, even though I have my chisel pointed upwards, I'm going to be bringing the blade down through the material so that I'm cutting on the edge. Because I don't want to be cutting up, because that will cause it to split away from the edge. I'll slice the other end off here. Now, if you have a flush trim router, you could use that as well to clean this up. But I find that this tool here works just as well. It has some grooves you can see right here. And let me see if I can't get you on the inside there. There's a razor blades that sit on the inside here, very sharp points. So you're basically setting it down on the piece, and where those little guide holes are is where the edge banding is going to go. So you're going to get it in place, and then you're going to squeeze it together. It's got a spring in the middle, and then you're just going to run it along your edge banding, and it will then trim it so that it's nice and flush, as you can see. No more overhang. Now, as you know, sharp or hard 90-degree corners are they're sharp. And we don't want that. That's why we round over corners, break edges for taking finish, but also just to make sure that it's not something you got to slice yourself up on. That's where your file comes in handy. Now, I like to tape a little bit of blue tape on the end, several rolls, just to give me just a little bit of thickness to it. And that way I can start up top with my file. Let me grab another clamp here. I'm used to cutting it the other way. So with my file, I'm going to run it on the edge because I want to break the edge, but there's also glue that I need to pick up. And so I'll run it a few times. And with the tape, it allows me to get really close up on the edge and then tilt into it, and I can run my file. I know the file is not angled properly, it's just for demonstration. I can run my file along the edge without worrying about running the file against the surface I need to maintain. So basically, I am rounding over this edge, cleaning up any goop that's left over. That's a little bit of blowout from when it was cut. And then I'll give a slight pass, one or two, on the edges. Now, the reason that you'll need a brush is because as you are filing, you're going to get glue and material in there, and you just need to be able to clean it out. And again, I start up at the top, and I make a few passes, and rolling it over with each pass until I have something that feels a little more comfortable than a sharp edge. And that does it for edge banding. Again, it's real easy to do. Buying the materials isn't that expensive. These rolls don't cost that much, and they'll last you forever, especially if you're a smaller shop. The edge trimmer is 15 to 20 bucks. Same thing with the J roller. I'll have some links down below to Amazon to where you can get those. And next time I will talk about doing edge banding with hardwoods. See you next time.